in Hot Springs along world-famous Bathhouse Row, after you've taken your world-class bath, you can then go across the street and take a ride in this, an actual World War II amphibious vehicle. The Duck amphibious vehicles were an instant success from the get-go as a means of transporting troops and cargo over land and water. In 1942, they were classified as standard military equipment. During a 3-year period, the General Motors Corporation built more than 21,000 of these things. Spelled D-U-K-W, the D meant first year of production, 1942. The U was for body style, utility, amphibious. The K stood for front-wheel drive. GMC still uses that on trucks today. And the W was for 2 rear driving wheels. Ducks participated in many of the major battles of World War II, including the D-Day invasion of Normandy, France, during which more than 2,000 ducks carried troops and supplies on shore. Today they carry tourists around Hot Springs.
All right, guys, my name's Rick. I'm going to be your tour guide on this little excursion. We're going to go out to Lake Hamilton. We're going to have a lot of fun on the way out there. At least I'm going to have a lot of fun. I hope you guys are going to enjoy yourself. On the way out, I'm going to be telling you about things to see and do here in Hot Springs. Give you a little bit of the history.
Who would have guessed a standard military vehicle would later become a tourist attraction ride?
All right, well, let's go down there. Bond, James Bond. Had a great time watching out here on the lake.
The transformation from the military duck to the tourist duck is a 4 to 5 month process costing about $100,000.
It's quite a change. This is an old duck that was built back in the mid-1940s. And as you can tell from looking at it, the condition's not really good, but we don't really care because we go through and we remove all the metal. There's a small amount of original metal left in the duck, but most of it's replaced with all new metal at the same specifications they used when they built the ducks originally back in the 1940s. Some of the things that are in here now we take out. For example, this arm right here was the only actual protection they had on the duck. It wasn't a real great fighting machine because they had one .50 caliber machine gun and it sat on a tripod up here around this area on a big ring, and they could literally do a 360 on it if you didn't mind hanging out over the water there. But that was really the only protection the duck had. And we take all that out. We change out the engine and transmissions. We use a lot of the levers and they still look original, but the engine transmission will do. Very durable old vehicles. We claim, or we feel like, they're probably the most successful amphibious vehicle that's ever been used by the military. They're very versatile in what they can do. Their maneuverability on the water is not that great. The Coast Guard considers them restricted by their draft, which means they don't turn very easily. But it takes a lot of man hours to go from this stage to what you saw downtown on the new duck that we built this past winter. Plus it takes a lot of dollars to get between those two. But we have our own manufacturing shop here. We can bend our metal, roll it, do about whatever we need to do to it at this point.
Ducks were used by the military all the way up until the mid-1960s.
Well, when they finally decommissioned it, they pulled the body plugs on her, they put her in gear, set her out there into the water and let her travel on out and scuttle herself. It was a terrible waste of a great machine. You see, when this machine was built, it was built with an intended 6-month service life. Well, it's been over 65 years since those first ducks were produced, and we're still driving them on the road today. I will brag on the ladies a little bit. You see, all the men were away at war at the time, so most of the ducks were built by the ladies. Ladies, I think you can give yourself a pretty good hand and a pat on the back for that.
The B-17 Flying Fortress was, without a doubt, one of the most famous planes ever built. It served in virtually every World War II combat zone and is probably best known for its daylight strategic bombing of German industrial targets. Production of the plane was almost 13,000. Today, only about a dozen are left airworthy. One of those few B-17s based in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, tours the country, bringing World War II history up close and personal. And in every town and city it flies into, the men who flew the plane during the war eventually gather to look, to reminisce, and most importantly, to tell their story.
Of course, you had battle damage, you know, but you never had anything serious until I got in B-17s, and it was on September 13th, 1944, we flew a mission to Ludwigshafen in Germany. We got shot up bad. We lost 2 engines over the target. Then we tried to stay with the group as much as we could because there's fighters in the area. And trying to stay with them, then we overheated the other 2 engines. Number 1 and number 2 engine on the left wing were still operating until they started cutting out. And we just cut in, cut out, cut in, cut out. Couldn't get them cooled down. But we took a debate whether to abandon, bail out, or stay with the plane. So we stayed with it and set a course for Brussels. Brussels had been liberated 10 days. And we set it down in a turnip field. It was going to land on the strip. They lowered the gear, but we got to the airfield, the fighters were taking off and the C-47s, and we couldn't land. They told us to go around. We couldn't go around. We was losing altitude, so we had to set it down in a turnip field with the wheels down. But everybody got out in good shape.
It was a pretty tough old plane then, I guess.
Tough plane. We had the right side of the plane was just demolished. The radio operator got hit, but he had his flak suit on, and he was down on his knees throwing out what they call chaff. That was long strips of foil that you put out in the air, you know, to give the radar on the ground a false reading. And he was throwing that chaff out, but he had his flak suit off and had it on the floor and was kneeling on it. And that shrapnel come up through that floor, up through that flak suit and hit him on the knee, but it didn't, it was pretty well spent after going through the flak suit. So, and the plane was tore up. It's a tough plane. It would fly. I've seen them come back with 2 engines, and we would have got home with 2 engines had they not overheated. But you hear all kinds of stories, you know, about them, how they managed to get back across the channel, how the fighter planes would escort them back when they were in trouble. But it was a well-designed airplane.
What are your thoughts when you look at it now?
When that plane come in a while ago, I walked up, he was getting ready to land, and the thought that went through my mind was watching them come back off of missions. You'd always, when they circle the field before they land, you'd always start counting to see if they all got back. Sometimes you'd think, well, we've lost 3 planes, and they'd come in and land, and then in a short while, maybe 15 minutes here, would come another one, straggled in with battle damage. It'd always come in, if they had an injured on board, it'd always come in and fire a red flare. And if they were in the group, when they come in, they had priority to land first. But when they straggled like that and come in last, of course, there's no one in front. They'd come right on in, the ambulance would meet them as soon as they got the plane stopped. But we always look when they come in, see if anybody fired a red flare. that engine on. I wonder if that was some of your squadron. You pretty well knew everybody in your squadron, but as a group and you know, in whole, you didn't know everybody. You knew some, but you hobnobbed with your squadron.
This B-17 I flew quite a few hours in it. It's a good old airplane, you know. I was a radio operator in there, and I mean, it'd get you back. There's some of those fellows that flew in it during World War II, you know. So,
I guess they didn't call it the Flying Fortress for nothing.
no. Well, of course, you know, the B-29 was called the Super Fortress, the old B-29. I don't know whether they've got any of those still flying around or not. Probably some of these places have one, you know, but the B-17 was a good old airplane. A lot of times we would be out or something and one of the engines would go out, so it'd bring us back on 3 pretty good. We'd probably come back on 2 if it had to, you know.
Tom Davis was a gunner in the ball turret underneath the B-17.
My part of the war was the finish, and the Luftwaffe was practically defeated then. We saw a few fighter aircraft, but our mostly concern was anti-aircraft fire. And we lost a few planes, but nothing like they did in the first part of the war.
Well, I understand sometimes that you'd be in there for like hours on end, 7, 8 hours.
Yeah, our longest missions were about 10 hours long. Of course, you didn't have to stay in the ball during the mission. When the takeoff and rendezvous time, you could be up in the plane, but as soon as you cross the channel and get into enemy territory, you're in position then for whatever comes.
I guess you get, like anything else, it looks like it's pretty much cramped, but I guess you got used to sitting in there.
Oh yeah, a young man could sit for hours like that. He was in a fetus position with your hands up and your knees up in your chest, and your controls. You could turn all the way around, down and up.
And I was both B-29 and B-17 flight engineer, and flew the B-17s that were radio controlled and that they flew through the atomic tests back in the late 40s. And some of that was pretty interesting flying, particularly if you were on the drone. You got in quite a few interesting situations and fortunately got out of all of them.
One of the current pilots of this B-17 is a former commercial airline pilot who says he wouldn't take anything to give up the opportunity.
Well, flying the B-17 is a pretty special privilege. It's a real unique opportunity that not many people get the chance to do anymore. And it's a real honor to be able to share it with the public. You know, this airplane means so much to so many people for so many different reasons. It's an icon of our history. People have family ties to it, that they had relatives that were either lost in the war or served in the war. And then, of course, the veterans that are still alive that come out and literally get tears in their eyes when they see the airplane. It's a real special, it's a special deal to be part of the crew of the airplane.
I imagine it pretty much, since you've been piloting it now for 4 years, that it lives up to its name, being a flying fortress and being tough.
It's a great airplane. It's taught me a lot and continues to teach all of us. It's one of those airplanes that when you're really good at it and dialed in, it can make you look good, but it also can turn around and humble you real quick.
I imagine, like you said, going all throughout the country and displaying it, it's kind of been a second education for you as far as the veterans that you meet.
That's a very good point, and it really is that. It's the people that you meet that make it that special part of your life. Flying the airplane is wonderful, and it's a real challenge, and it's every day is different. But the people that you meet, you just never forget the stories. You continue to grow and learn about all these amazing things that happen to so many different people that somehow are all linked together and tied together through this piece of history.
Still, yet one more story from Ray Wall, who operated one of the side or waist guns.
Had two up there, and then the two on the top, and then the two on the ball, and then the two waist and two tails. That's what we had. And regardless of which way that thing flew in, that's the way, it all depends on how many of them was firing at it, see? So we had a ball. It didn't seem like we was having a ball at the time, but 'cause we was worried about him shooting one of those, I don't know what some kind of a cannon that the Germans had. We was afraid that we'd get tangled up and got shot with one of them, but we never got that many. We had a few, and but we usually, if he got close enough to one, we hit him. Well, you had 6 or 8 guns on him at one time, and tracers every once in a while to tell you which way your shells was going. When you put a tracer in there, it'll tell you if you fire in front of him with a tracer, and then he'd try to dump down under him, see? Mm-hmm. And so we couldn't hit him with the machine guns, but we got him anyway.
Got him anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got him anyway. This greatest generation, they got him anyway for our freedom. Longer than a football field, the USS Razorback actually was not named after the Arkansas Razorbacks, but for the finback whale, which is often called the Razorback because of its distinctive ridges. The USS Razorback was launched along with 2 sister ships plus another sub on January 27, 1944. It was the largest single-day launch of U.S. submarines ever. During World War II, the submarine's crew rescued numerous American pilots who were shot down. At the end of the war, the Razorback was one of only 12 submarines selected to be present in Tokyo Bay when the Japanese surrender was signed. We met up with crew member Jim Franks, who now lives in Hot Springs Village, for a tour of the vessel he knew all too well.
Watch your step.
Down the hatch.
Well, we just came down into the forward torpedo room, and what happens is this room can carry 16 torpedoes. What we do is there's 6 tubes. You see them behind me, and they're in an array of 3 on the port and 3 on the starboard side. And you see these racks. When we load the torpedoes down from the loading hatch, we lower them down onto these racks, and then you slide them over to line them up with the tubes, and you hand haul them into the tubes. And so when you were getting ready to go on patrol, what you would do is you'd have the 6 in the tubes, and you'd have 10 10 in the racks out here. And so you see these racks, these bunks next to the torpedoes. The sailors would actually be sleeping next to, they'd be hugging the torpedoes. So, it's kind of the way of life here.
Many times, the forward torpedo room would also be used for Sunday morning services. The main bunk area could sleep 36. On some patrols, there were more men than bunks, which meant some of the crew had to hot bunk or hot rack. One man would use the bunk while another was on duty.
This is what the bedpan would look like that holds all your stuff. So you would fold up all of your personal belongings and put it in there, and that was your space. This rack here is the one I was telling you about. This is my rack, and this petcock right here is the one that, if you look on here, you'll see it's still leaking. And I was supposed to hot rack with this, but because I was the only one that would get in here, nobody else wanted to get in with the oil, that I actually got to use this bunk all for myself.
Oh, you can't jump out of here too quick. Knock yourself out.
If you look, there's not a whole lot of room.
Jim explained to us the significance of having a sub like the USS Razorback in central Arkansas.
We're trying to keep it as true to its form as we possibly can. So what we want is that visitor's experience, to experience what it was like to be here during World War II. And other than the snorkel, the ship looks very much like it would. And that's really important for us to pass that along. It's kind of important for me as well, because as you might tell from my accent, I'm not a native Arkansan, but I happened to come here because I found a nice place to live, and it was fun to live here, and also my only roots was that my mother happened to be born in Paraguay. So I ended up here in 1998, and then in 2002 is when we found out that the Razorback was going out of commission in Turkey, and so I got together with some of the other guys that were very instrumental in bringing the boat here, and so we brought the Razorback, my first submarine, to my retirement place, because I'm retired here and I'm going to be here for the duration, and so is the Razorback.
What were your thoughts when you first saw it, and how many years for the first time?
Yeah, it was pretty special. It's hard to explain because it was so long ago. It was like 45 years since I had seen the boat, and it kind of comes back to you, what life is like, and when you drop down the after battery hatch and you can smell the diesel fuel, and I got to go by my rack and I can see where that fuel sounding petcock is still leaking oil. So it's like old home week, and it's kind of funny because I had this was one of 6 ships I served in, but there's always something special about the first one. It's kind of like your first love.
Submarine service has been referred to as the silent service. Run silent, run deep, as one movie was called. But there's always a price to be paid for victory. During World War II, 52 U.S. submarines never returned home, disappearing without a trace. More than 3,500 men to this day lie entombed on the ocean floor. The USS Razorback stays docked here at the Arkansas Inland Maritime Museum in North Little Rock as a proud memorial to all those men still on patrol. In the words of former NBC News anchorman Tom Brokaw, it was the greatest generation any society has ever produced. Those men and women who served during World War II and gave us the world we have today. For more on the USS Razorback, the B-17, and the amphibious ducks, visit our website, aetn.org/exploringarkansas, where you can also order a copy of any episode. And we'll see you again the next time for another exciting adventure on Exploring Arkansas.